Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to my little corner of the interweb. Today I'd like to bring to your attention another indie game that I think is well worth you guys having a look at. A game called Be Like a Crow. Now this game, ta-da! This game was launched on Kickstarter in, I think, October 2021. Very successful. I think it had over 2,000 backers. And this is a game by Tim Roberts of Criticalkit Limited. Now, I discovered this game by accident. I was just looking through DriveThruRPG. I think it was the middle of December 2022. I was just looking through DriveThruRPG, just having a look and seeing if there was anything interesting. And I happened across this solo RPG here, Be Like a Crow. Now, I don't think it is on DriveThru anymore. I think you have to get this from the criticalkit website. I'll put a link in the description below, but you can purchase physical copies. You can also purchase digital copies. If I remember correctly, I think the physical copies of the original, of the core book, which is this, I think is £13. And I think the digital PDF is £6. You can also download free maps. There are also some expansions and some supplements like cards, journals, and everything else. But yeah, I don't think it's on DriveThruRPG anymore, but it's definitely worth still taking a look at. Now, before we go any further, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Would really appreciate that. But let's take a look at the game. Right now, Be Like a Crow is a solo RPG, but I don't think it would be difficult to use it as a cooperative RPG, where maybe you and a friend or maybe you and a partner can have, more than one crow or more than one character. I don't think it would be difficult to do that. But it is a very simple game to play in that there are not a lot of mechanics to remember or use. There's not a lot of statistics and skills to slow things down. It is a very compact, streamlined form of game where it's run on prompts, and from those prompts you generate and you create the story around those, with the use maybe of some kind of journal. And this is very similar to a number of other solo RPGs that I have covered on this channel. You don't need a lot. You need the basic rule book. You need, like I say, maybe a journal or some way of making notes or writing down your story. You need a character sheet, which you can find in the book or the PDF. You will need a map for one of the settings that you select. In the basic game, there are 6 different settings that you can play. Sort of 6 different worlds that you can play as a crow, as a bird. But you can also, like I mentioned just now, there are some expansions on the criticalkit website. I think one is called Cthulhu. So you have a Lovecraft-esque setting, and I think there's also Fistful of Feathers, which is a Wild West setting. But in the basic book you get 6, which is plenty. And then you basically need the map, or the hex map, for the setting that you're going to use. Now these are free to download from that website. What else do you need? You are also going to need a pack of cards. Yes! No dice. You don't need to use any dice in this game. You just need a pack of cards. So I've tried to pick the pack of cards that are the most suitable for this game. Hopefully they'll be clear enough to see on the video. Yeah, these are one of my alchemy packs of cards. But you're going to need a pack of cards with the 2 jokers. What else? Well, not much else. A pencil and eraser to write in your journal and also to update your character sheet. And as you can see here, the character sheet is very basic. It's very simple. Not a lot of things you need to really keep track of. You've got a few little bits up here in terms of the narrative and description. You've got your skills, objects carried, and that's essentially it. Very, very simple. Now, in this game, as the title tells you, you are going to be playing a bird. In particular, one of the, was it Corvid family? One of the crow family. And in this game, I think there are 5 that you can select. Carrion crow, magpie, rook, raven, and jackdaw. Each one has slightly different skills and abilities. Each one has slightly different ways of playing. Shh. You don't play the cat. The cat is not an optional extra. The cat would probably eat your character. However, as my cat has helpfully reminded me, there is a Kickstarter for their new game, Be Like a Cat. And at the time of recording, this game has, I think, 14 days left on the Kickstarter. So you've still got time to get in there. If you enjoy this little game that I'm showing you, go to Kickstarter, links in the description, Be Like a Cat. But yeah, in this game, you basically are playing one of these Corvids, one of these crows. So you will create your character, very, very quick, takes 5 or 10 minutes. We'll do that later. You select a setting, like the ones I showed you just now. You need to have a hex map, but there are 6 settings inside the core book. You have let's go through them. Urban Crow, which is your basic modern world city. Cyber Crow, where you're in a cyberpunk sort of futuristic world. Gothic Crow, yep, horror. Fantasy Crow, don't need to explain that one. Clockwork Crow, so you've got steampunk. And the last one is Ravens of the Tower, which is an 1800s London setting. So you create your bird, your crow, you choose the setting. Now, when you create your crow, you're going to be building the character in terms of skills and description. Also, when you select your setting, there will be adjustments to make to your character. For example, certain skills, certain abilities will be added or given to you. Once you've done that, you can then just actually start playing the game. It is a very simple game. Like I'll be doing some gameplay for you so you can see how simple it is. And the rules actually are, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 pages of rules. There's not a lot here. Like I say, this is more of a journaling RPG where, like I say, it's driven by prompts. Right, the general rules are very simple and it revolves around your card deck, or your deck of cards. Essentially, you are going to be using the cards to generate situations, encounters, events, objectives, even things like characters you meet, objects you find. All of that's going to be randomly generated using the deck of cards and the relevant tables. One of the first things you'll be doing after you've created your character and selected your setting is to actually generate your first objective. Now, objectives are important. These are like your missions. And this is how you advance and evolve in the game. There are no specific levels to advance with, but there are life cycles. Essentially, your bird is going to grow. It's going to age. I think the first level you start off as a fledgling, a very young bird. Once you have accomplished 2 objectives, you will become a juvenile and you will gain certain increases, certain changes to your character as you grow, as you move to the next life cycle. Now, these changes will be covered in the type of bird that you're playing. It will actually tell you what you're going to be getting, but also in the setting that you've chosen, there will also be some changes as you grow. As a juvenile, you then have to do another 4 more objectives, and then you will become an adult. And again, there will be changes to your character as you grow to become an adult. And then as an adult, you will have to do 6 more objectives to become the final level, which is the Old Crow. So objectives are very important. These are your missions that you are trying to complete to evolve your character. Also, there will be a lot of times where you need to generate events or encounters. And this is done very simply by taking your card deck, which will be shuffled. It's not shuffled yet, but you will take a card and then you will check, if I can find it, you will check the event table. Now, there are 2 different tables when you're in flight and when you are on land. And you'll see that there is 2 parts to each table. There is a red suit and black suit. So you will draw the card. In this case, we get the Queen of Hearts, and maybe we're flying when an event happens. So the Queen of Hearts is a red suit. So we look down here to the Queen, and it tells me what happens and what I need to do. Very simple. Very, very simple. What else is there? Well, there will also be times that it asks you to generate a character, an object, a location. Same thing, you will, let's get a different card. I wonder what this card's going to be. In that case, again, what you'll be doing is drawing a card. In this case, it's the 10 of clubs. Let's say we're looking for an object. It tells me to find an object. Well, you will go to the setting tables. Again, each setting has got their own tables in the book. So let's say we're looking for a object. We're playing the fantasy setting. Objects, okay, here, we've got red suits and black suits. We got a 10 of clubs. So that is a vial of powdered unicorn horn. Same thing. So you'll use the cards to generate those random items for your story. What else? When you're traveling, every time you travel to a new hex, you have to check for events. If you're flying, you have to check for 1 event per hex. If you're on land, you have to check for 2 events. But you cannot move from one hex to another on land. It's too far for you to hop. So to actually move from one hex to another hex on the maps, let's bring this one here, the clockwork map. So you can move from hex to hex only by flying, but every hex you move, you've got to generate 1 event. If you land to do something, maybe to find an object, to find a character, you have to do 2 events before you can leave that hex, and you have to leave by flying. Not difficult to remember, it's okay. Carrying objects and using objects, you can only actually carry 2 objects at any one time. You can find objects, you can be rewarded objects, they can aid you in certain skills, they may be needed to accomplish certain objectives, but you can only ever carry 2, 1 in your claws, 1 in your beak. What else? Skill checks. Yes, sometimes you'll be asked to make a skill check. Your skills are here, not an extensive amount, but enough to do the job. So you've got things like fly, hop, scare, befriend, use tool, peck, evade. There's a number of skills, perfectly manageable, not a lot to remember. Now, the way that you actually do a skill check is very simple, and again, you're using the card deck. I have shuffled them now. So what you will do when you're asked to make a skill check is you will draw a card from the top of the deck that will give you your target value or your target number. In this case, we have an Ace of Hearts. Now, this is good because Ace is the lowest card. What you then have to do, if that's the target, is reveal the next card, add any ticks or any advances in your skills. So say, for example, we are doing, let's say we're doing a use tool check. Maybe I want to use a twig to set off a trap or something. So maybe I have 2 ticks or 2 points in use tool. What that would do is it would give me an advance of 2 points on my card. So I get a 10 of hearts here. But if I have 2 points in my use tool skill for this use tool check, this would actually count as a queen because it would be 2 higher because I have 2 points. Now a 10 is higher than an ace, so I succeed in that test. Now if it was the other way around, let's say for example that I drew this first as the target value, a 10, and then I drew the next card for my test, which is an ace. I have 2 points in my use tool, which would bring this up to a 3. That is not high enough, it's not equal or higher than the target number, so that test would fail. And you would then have to use your creativity, your storytelling and role-playing skills to then generate what happens in your story. The prompt, the game will generally tell you what happens, but you have to embellish and make it more interesting, more exciting for your story. What else? Well, you could also get situations where you are given what's called an authority or a penalty. Sometimes things can happen to you that make you weaker or less proficient. You could be flying through a storm, and maybe the storm is so bad that you have a penalty on your navigate skills. You can get lost a lot easier. Well, the way that these authority and penalties work is that you are drawing 2 cards for the skill check. With an authority, you're drawing 2 cards and taking the highest, which is brilliant. But with a penalty, you're drawing 2 cards and using the lowest. So let's say for that use tool test, that is my target, which, oh God, that's a high target. Okay, so I need to get a queen or higher to succeed in the task. But let's say that I have an authority. Let's say that maybe I have an item. I'm carrying an item that gives me a bonus for use tool tests. So it's giving me authority in that test. So what I would do is I would draw 2 cards and take the best because it's an authority. So in this case, I would take the 9. Now again, if I had 2 points, that would bring this up to a 10 jack. It would bring it up to a jack, which is still not high enough, and I would still fail. A penalty works the same way, but you would take the lowest card for your test. So another thing is in your deck, there will be 2 jokers. Now these jokers can basically be used to automatically succeed in what you're doing. So it says here in the book, page 24, automatically win 1 combat attack, automatically succeed on 1 skill check. You can also use these to heal injuries or to discard a card and draw again. So these are like bonus cards, but there's only 2 in the deck. When the deck finishes, when you use all the cards, when you've used all the cards to do your different things, what you will do is you will leave the last card face up and you will shuffle the rest to create a new draw pile. What else is there? Well, there's also combat. Now, as a fledgling, you may want to try to avoid combat because it can be quite dangerous. Whenever you meet a character or whenever an event happens where combat could take place, you will notice that they have, let me go to the thing. All right, so these are the fantasy characters that you can find. You'll notice that after the name of the character, they have 3 numbers in brackets. The first number is their skill bonus, which they will add to the cards in combat or anything else. The second number is the number of injuries or health points they have. When you do combat, you usually inflict 1 point of injury or 1 point of damage. So this is how much damage they can take. The third and last number is how much damage they do. So you'll see here that this jackdaw spy has no skill bonus, so the cards that he will reveal for combat will just be as they are. He has 3 life or 3 injury slots, and he will deal 1 damage if and when he hits you. If we take a look at the Lich, he's got a +5 to his cards. He's got 7 life points or injury slots, and he deals 2 damage every time he hits. Now, you only have 6 health points or 6 injury slots, and then you're dead. So yeah, combat can be quite deadly. Now, the way that combat works is it's done in a series of rounds. It's literally you attack and then they attack. And it's a comparative card draw. What you will do is, unless the encounter or the event says otherwise, you will always act first. So what you'll do is you will select what type of attack to use. There are 3 types of attack: peck, claw, and dive bomb. Now, peck is with your beak, claw is with your claws, dive bomb is an aerial attack. So you select the type of attack that you're going to do. You will then draw a card and add the number of skill points you may have in that attack form. Your opponent, the enemy, will then draw a card. Oh, they get a joker. Ignore that. Okay, so they get a queen, and they will add their skill point bonus. So like we saw just now, the jackdaw got a +0, the lich got a +5. So you will add your skill bonus to your card, they will add their skill bonus to their card. Now, there will be items that you can find, there will be some abilities that you can find that will modify these rules. If you are higher than them, if your card plus skill is higher than their card plus skill, you inflict a base of 1 injury on them. Now again, there are objects and abilities that will allow you to do more damage, but base is 1 point. If they score higher than you, then they evade and they take no damage. These cards are discarded. Then your opponent acts. So they draw a card to attack and add their skill value. You draw a card and add your evade skill points, if you have any. If they score higher than you, they do damage to you according to how much damage they do in that list I showed you just now. If you get higher than them, you evade the attack. Now this continues until either of you is dead or you choose to leave combat. You can flee combat, and this can be useful when you're up against certain enemies, like the Lich just now. So instead of taking an attack on your turn, you can choose to flee. To do this, you basically do an opponent's attack, and if you score higher, you leave the combat. That's it. What else? Injuries and healing. Yes, you can take injuries through combat. I think there may also be some events where you could possibly take damage as well. But you can heal. Every time that you land, once per hex, you can actually make a preen check. This can allow you to heal back 1 injury. There are also opportunities. There are also certain events and objects that can also allow you to heal. And essentially, that's basically how the game plays. It is very, very simple. But as I say in all of these videos, it will be easier to understand as you watch me play. And that is what we are going to do. We are going to play session of Be Like a Crow. So, what I'm going to do is I am going to select one of the settings. Again, there are 6 in the core book. I'm going to select one of these settings, and I am going to select one of the bird types to play. Right, let us create our character that we'll be using in the gameplay video. Now, all beginning characters will start off as fledge. Is that spelt right? I might have to fledgling. Yeah, it's spelled right. For some reason, it didn't look right. Okay, so when you create your character, you start at the fledgling level, which is the youngest, the first step in your life cycle. And we are going to have to get and succeed at 2 objectives before we can level up to the next life cycle, which is juvenile. Now, what should I play? There are 5 different types of bird, different types of corvid that you can play in this game. Carrion, crow, magpie, rook, raven, and jackdaw. Now, I like ravens. Ravens are big. They're beefy boys. Ravens really are the sort of the hulks of the crow family. So I think I'm going to play a raven. Corvus corax. So we're going to play a raven in our game. Name and setting I will do in a second. Sketch, I'm not good at drawing, so I won't do that for the moment. Right, let's read through here. So the raven is 60 to 68 cm in size. Well, I'm a fledgling, so I'm going to be small to begin with. They are big birds. Ravens are massive in comparison to their other corvid relatives. They have rough black feathers, sometimes with a blue tint, and a distinctive diamond-shaped tail. Yeah, there's some information here in terms of description, in terms of your storytelling maybe. Though their size can make them intimidating, they can be great allies if befriended and are not averse to forming bonds with other creatures. They are powerful and intelligent, but tend to not travel far from their nests. So this can actually help in terms of how we're going to roleplay the bird. Right, let's have a look. Now, I mean, some of you may be thinking that playing a bird's going to be restrictive in terms of what you can do. Well, as you'll see, not necessarily. Right, creating your raven. Starting at fledgling stage, and at each stage you advance. So, as I advance to juvenile, to adult, to old crow, you can add 2 ticks to any one skill. You can also add 1 tick to a single skill from each of your main skill categories. So you have 4 categories. All right. It also says here, you can also add 1 additional tick or point to peck, fly, befriend, and scare. Okay. Now I'm thinking that befriend could be very useful, especially at the beginning when you're young and weak. So I'm thinking, should I put 2 into befriend, or, I mean, use tool could also be very useful. I mean, they could all be bloody useful. Depends on what randomly comes up, doesn't it? I think I'm going to put 2 ticks into, I think, use tool, and then I can put 1 tick in a single skill from each category. Right. So I'm going to put 1 into search, because I mean, fly will be useful. Like, for example, like I say, when you're in storms and stuff, it may ask you to make a fly check to avoid injury. But I'm going to be getting a point of fly here, you see. So search could be very useful, I think. So I'll put 1 there. This group, I'm going to be putting 1 into, again, I think befriend will be really useful. Even though I'm getting another point here, I think it's going to be very useful. So I'll put 1 there. I'll put 1 into preen to help me heal injuries if I need to. And then combat, I will put 1 into, I'm getting 1 in peck, so I'll put another in peck here. Okay. And then 1 additional tick into peck, fly, befriend, and scare. Okay. So these are your starting skills according to your bird type. Right, special abilities. At the start of combat, you can ruff your neck feathers to make a scare check with authority. A success means you make every subsequent attack with authority. Okay. So we'll put this in the description. Okay, there's another ability. You can also make any social interaction checks with authority. That, again, that's very useful because that covers 4 skills. Now it says here, underline the name of any skills you have authority in as a reminder. So I'm going to underline all of these thanks to that ability. Very nice. So again, authority, you take 2 cards, you take the highest. Excellent. So that is the character generation in terms of your bird type. The next thing we need to do is to choose a setting. Now, I am going to choose, as a raven, I'm going to choose the Ravens of the Tower map, which is set in the 1800s in London. So the Tower of London is famous for having this group of ravens. I think there is supposed to be 6, but the number can vary. I think traditionally there's supposed to be 6, but I think, if I remember correctly, at the moment there are 9. I can't remember. But they each have names. There is actually a raven keeper at the tower. Even now, even today, there is actually a raven keeper at the tower because there is a legend or some kind of belief that if the ravens leave the tower, the kingdom will fall. So we've got to protect the ravens. So we're going to be playing as one of those ravens in this setting. So the setting that we have chosen is Ravens of the Tower. So we'll put this up here. I'll just put Tower of London. Same thing. Bonk, bonk. What that now means is we have to go to the page for that setting because it also gives you some more stuff for your character, right? And again, this is the hex map we're going to be using. You can download this free from the website. Right, what does it say here? You are still new to this. Until you complete your first objective, you must make a fly check each time you take off and land. Failing this check results in 1 injury. Oops. Oops, oops, oops. All right. However, your diminutive size makes your target and you can hide in smaller spaces. So I get to make all evade checks with authority. Okay. But that's only going to happen while I am a fledgling. Once I become juvenile, I think I lose that. So evade checks with authority. So I can underline evade, but what I'm going to do is just put a little star next to that to remind me that this is not a permanent one. It's only while I'm little. It's only while I'm small. Now, until you complete your first objective, you must make a fly check each time you take off and land. Failing results in 1 injury. Ooh! That's going to be a bit of a problem. All right, so again, this is going to be temporary. So until, let's write it here. But like I say, you lose these once you advance to the next level, which is juvenile. And then juvenile will give you different things. But that's not good. All right, I am going to name my crow Munin. M-U-N-I-N-N. Now, the hell does that name mean? Where did I get that name? Well, actually, this was the name of one of the ravens from, I think, 2011, 2012. He actually escaped the tower. Normally, the ravens have their wings clipped a little bit so they don't fly so far. I think recently they have reduced the amount of clipping. But yeah, this one, Munin, did actually manage to escape the tower and was found by the public a bit later. So he's a little bit of a character. So I'm going to call my raven Munin, even though this is in the 1800s. So let me just double check everything else. Yeah, it takes place 1800s London, so a long time ago. That's it. Character creation is done. We have chosen our setting. We are going to be playing in the Tower of, or the Ravens of the Tower setting. Now I have done a little bit of prep. I have actually made some tokens to use. So I can use these on the map. This is a rook. I can use these to actually move around the map. These are magpies. Bonk, bonk. What else we got? I think this is one of the ravens. So I'll be using one of these. Like I said, I've done a little bit of prep. I've also done for, not for the actual gameplay in terms of the map and the game, but more for in terms of the video production. When I do the video editing, I've actually again done some tokens for some of the characters that we could possibly meet, including, where are they? Animals, foxes, what else is there? Parrots, doves. Yeah, I've done a bunch of these little tokens to represent some of the characters that we can find in this setting. But yeah, we are ready to go. So this video done. Gone over the game, gone over the rules very quickly, created our character, selected our setting. We are now ready to play. And that, my friends, will be in the next video, the gameplay video. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope this has piqued your interest. It's a good, fun little game. Although, like a lot of these solo RPGs, it will involve a lot of creation on our part. It's not a 300, 400, 500 page book with absolutely everything in it. It's very simplistic in nature, and we have to create the game around the prompts that come up. So, guys, thanks for watching. Like I say, I hope you enjoyed this. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. I would really appreciate that. Also, don't forget to leave some comments. I love reading your comments. I love replying to you guys. So keep it up. Until next time, until we go to the gameplay, take care, stay safe. Cheers.